what we do as characters. You know, the Shaw character is a man of experience, and you don't get to do that in your 20s. You know, you need to build and same with, you know, the Hobbs character. This is a guy who's been there, done that, and to be there and done that, you need years behind you.
Jason Statham. The man built like steel, with the death stare that could stop you cold and stunts that make your jaw drop. He rarely talks off camera, but when he does, the words hit like a roundhouse kick. Recently, he revealed the names of 6 actors he cannot stand working with. These aren't little squabbles. These are full-blown grudges, tensions that boiled over behind the scenes, far away from the cameras. And trust me, the names will shock you. Let's start with the biggest one, Vin Diesel. Even die-hard Fast and Furious fans didn't see this coming. On screen, Diesel is the face of Dominic Toretto, the untouchable alpha of the franchise. But off-screen, Statham says working with him was like dealing with a teenager trapped in a bodybuilder's body. Late arrivals, constant rewrites, endless demands to make himself look bigger than everyone else. Statham admitted, "I don't babysit egos. That's not why I make movies," insiders confirmed it. Diesel reportedly fought to keep his dominance in every scene, while Statham, brought in as Deckard Shaw, was stealing attention with sheer presence. Add The Rock into the mix, whose chemistry with Statham was natural and effortless, and suddenly Diesel looked like the outsider in his own kingdom. Publicly, Statham played it smart. When asked about the infamous feud between Diesel and The Rock, he shrugged it off, saying, "I stay out of any bickering. I've got nothing to do with it, and I don't want any part of it." But his silence said more than words ever could. Behind the cameras, he was done dealing with Diesel's ego. Today, they tolerate each other. The box office demands it. But the respect is cautious, professional only. As Statham once put it, "If I've got to manage someone's ego just to make a scene work, I'm out." For him, even explosions and billion-dollar car chases aren't worth that headache. And if you thought Vin Diesel was shocking, wait until you hear the next name, Steven Seagal. For Statham, action isn't just acting, it's discipline. Years of martial arts, sweat, pain, and precision that make a fight scene feel real. Seagal, in his eyes, represents the opposite. Statham didn't hold back. He called Seagal a pantomime, a man walking around like the second coming of Bruce Lee, without doing the work Bruce Lee actually did. Those words hit Hollywood like a thunderclap. Seagal fired back in an interview, brushing Statham off as a talented stuntman, but not on my level. Classic Seagal, grandiose, smug, and dripping with arrogance. But the industry wasn't fooled. His reputation had already spiraled into a punchline, weighed down by stories of on-set tantrums, failed comebacks, and bizarre antics. For Statham, the feud with Seagal wasn't personal. It was about principle, a line between real discipline and empty bravado. And he made sure everyone knew where he stood. Statham's words didn't tear down Steven Seagal. They just confirmed what Hollywood had been whispering for years. The two men were bound to clash. Statham built his entire career on grit. No stunt doubles, no shortcuts, no fake myths. Just discipline and execution. Seagal, on the other hand, leaned on ego and spectacle, selling an image that didn't hold up under the lights. The feud never turned into a tabloid circus. It didn't have to. Statham made it clear. He has zero interest in patching things up. Meanwhile, Seagal drifts deeper into his self-made fantasy world, waving off critics as his reputation crumbles. For Jason Statham, Seagal isn't even a rival. He's a warning, a living example of what happens when ego replaces discipline. And in the cutthroat world of action cinema, that's the harshest judgment of all. Then came the curveball, Shia LaBeouf. On paper, the two couldn't be more different. Statham, the no-nonsense bruiser. LaBouffe, the unpredictable child star turned chaotic provocateur. They've never even shared a set, but sparks still flew. It all started with a project that never made it to cameras. "We were in talks for a film," Statham explained. "The studio was excited. I wasn't. Told them he wasn't right. He found out and sent me a message. Let's just say it wasn't exactly professional." Statham didn't have to say more. LaBouffe's reputation filled in the blanks. Bar fights, meltdowns, method acting pushed to extremes. For a man like Statham, who thrives on discipline, it was everything he despised. "Some people want to be tortured geniuses," he said flatly. "I just want to get the job done without someone throwing a tantrum in their trailer." LaBouffe, of course, didn't stay quiet. Furious about being dismissed, he shot back with venom. "Jason's just a mechanic who throws punches." "That's not acting," he reportedly told a confidant. Classic Shia, defensive, defiant, unwilling to give an inch. The tension only grew when rumors swirled that Statham was being eyed for the Transformers franchise, right as LaBouffe was walking away. Headlines teased the possibility that Rosie Huntington-Whiteley's boyfriend might step into Shia's old role. For a man who had carried 3 massive blockbusters on his back, the thought of being replaced by Jason Statham? That was gasoline on the fire. For Shia LaBouffe, rumors of Jason Statham stepping into Transformers felt like Hollywood trying to erase him overnight. What started as a one-off disagreement quickly grew into something bigger, a clash of philosophies. Statham believed professionalism was a duty. LaBouffe believed chaos fueled his art. Neither respected the other's approach, and neither was willing to back down. The feud never turned into a public war, but the ice never thawed either. They avoid each other, never share space, and when pressed, Statham keeps his words clipped. "We're not the same kind of actor," he once said, and that was it. LaBouffe, as always, keeps his barbs sharp. Behind the restraint lies a rift that hasn't healed, a reminder that in Hollywood, the fiercest battles sometimes happen without a single scene being filmed. Then came Jared Leto. For Statham, acting is simple. Show up. Know your lines. Hit your marks. Let the work speak for itself. No games, no circus. So when Jared Leto entered the picture, the clash was inevitable. The two nearly crossed paths on a psychological thriller that stalled before production. Statham recalled their first meeting with equal parts amusement and disdain. Leto didn't show up as Jared Leto. He showed up as his character. He wouldn't break. He wanted to be addressed by his role's name. Wouldn't shake hands because it was out of character. Statham shook his head and decided right then. "Mate, we're in a coffee meeting. Relax. I don't care how good you are on screen. If I've got to babysit someone's ego just to make a movie, I'm out." That moment defined their rift. Statham didn't keep his thoughts private either. Asked later about method actors, he didn't mince words. "I'm not here to live in someone's fantasy. I'm here to make films. There's a difference between dedication and being a bloody nuisance." Of course, word reached Leto. And in true Jared fashion, he fired back with something cryptic. "Some actors punch. Some actors play. I choose to disappear. If that makes someone uncomfortable, maybe they're afraid of truth." The jab was subtle, but the meaning was sharp. Leto saw himself as the artist. Statham? Just a technician. Insiders say the two represent opposite poles of Hollywood. Statham, the no-nonsense action star, thrives on stripped-down precision. Leto, the self-styled shaman, is willing to bleed, break, and alienate if it means digging deeper into a role. They've never worked together, and those close to them say they never will. Statham avoids projects with Leto attached. Leto seems to wear Statham's disdain like a badge of honor. One thrives on high-octane realism, the other on 24/7 transformation. Between them hangs a silent agreement. No collaboration, no reconciliation, no middle ground. And then there's Mark Wahlberg. When Statham finally spoke about Wahlberg, it wasn't dressed up in PR or politeness. It was sharp, clean, and brutally honest. The two go back to the Italian Job in 2003. On screen, it looked like camaraderie. Off-screen, crew members saw something else. Statham showed up early, grinding through stunt rehearsals. Wahlberg? Different energy altogether. He's the kind of bloke who walks into a room and makes everything about him, Statham recalled. Always cracking jokes, keeping people waiting while he's off doing promo calls for his burger chain. We're here to make a film, not babysit a brand. What really gnawed at Jason Statham wasn't Mark Wahlberg's jokes. It was what he saw as Wahlberg's double life. He still plays up this Boston tough guy act, like he's living in The Departed, Statham once said. Then you see him flying private jets to give speeches at business seminars for his supplement company. Spare me the working-class routine. To Statham, it wasn't just an act. It was a betrayal of authenticity. Wahlberg didn't let that slide. In later interviews, he brushed it off with a smile, but his words still cut. Look, Jason's intense. He takes everything seriously, maybe too seriously. I like to have fun on set, keep things loose. If that's a crime, guilty as charged, and when a reporter pressed him about Statham's tough guy critique, Wahlberg grinned and fired back. At least I don't need stunt doubles to look tough. Statham never answered publicly, but insiders say the jab hit a nerve. For years, the feud stayed quiet, resurfacing only in whispers. Producers floated the idea of pairing them again, maybe a buddy cop movie or another ensemble. Both men refused. The chemistry isn't there, one insider admitted. They'd rather lose the paycheck than share a set. So where does it stand now? Neither has extended an olive branch, but neither has gone for the throat. It's not war, not peace, just a cold truce. Statham sees Wahlberg as the poster boy for Hollywood's obsession with branding over grit. Wahlberg sees Statham as a man stuck inside his own code, unwilling to loosen up. Whatever spark of brotherhood the Italian Job teased 2 decades ago, it died the second the cameras stopped rolling. And then came Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. In Hollywood, egos don't just collide, they explode. And when Jason Statham and The Rock first shared the screen in the Fast and Furious saga, it wasn't just Deckard Shaw versus Luke Hobbs. It was 2 real-life alphas refusing to come second best. The feud started quietly on the set of Furious 7. Both men had clauses in their contracts that said one thing clearly: neither character could ever lose a fight. Sounds small? It was a nightmare for the stunt team. Every punch, every kick, every headbutt had to be balanced like a political negotiation. Even Vin Diesel reportedly came up with a tally system to make sure neither man looked weaker. Statham later admitted with a smirk, "We're not really fighting, we're negotiating punch by punch. You've got to keep it even, or someone gets upset." The Rock, never shy about his alpha status, explained it his own way. "It's not always easy being an alpha, especially when it's 2 alphas. But I'll say this, I always respect a man who shows up ready to work." Respect, though, didn't erase the tension. Insiders say Statham, a disciplined martial artist and diver, thought Johnson leaned too heavily on brute strength and star power. Johnson, coming from WWE, saw Statham's stone-faced intensity as stubbornness. By the time the Fate of the Furious rolled around, the tension was so thick Universal spun them off into Hobbs and Shaw. Fans thought it was a reward. Insiders whispered it was damage control. Keeping Statham and Johnson in their own sandbox was the only way to keep the main franchise from imploding. But when cameras rolled on Hobbs and Shaw, something surprising happened. Their chemistry clicked. Statham called The Rock a diamond to work with, a 10 out of 10. Johnson, in turn, praised him as one of the best physical actors alive. So, where do they stand now? The feud that once threatened the franchise has cooled into grudging respect. They don't love each other, but they know they need each other. And maybe that's the truth. Statham and The Rock may never be friends, but their rivalry forged one of the most iconic action duos in cinema. The tension didn't break them. It made them legendary. 6 feuds, 6 rivalries, all proving the same thing. In Hollywood, pride and respect matter as much as box office numbers. Were Statham's grudges justified, or just the sparks of giant egos colliding? Let us know in the comments, hit like and subscribe, because what's coming next you won't want to miss.